please discuss the history of Central Asia in brief, like the Shakas, the Kushans, the Huns, and the Turkic invasions, how they started and when they started in the region. Okay, Central Asia. Where's Central Asia? Where's the map? So we know where India is. Historically, the Indian subcontinent was, India was larger. Afghanistan and Pakistan were part of India. India's borders during the time of Shri Chinggis Khan, the border of Afghanistan with Tajikistan, that was the border of India with Central Asia. Okay. Um, Now, Central Asia, for the longest time, for about 2000 years or so, was called Scythia. So you had these Indo-Iranian people in this region who were, look, there are multiple, there are records of multiple waves of migration out of India in the past 10,000 years, starting with the Battle of the Ten Kings. So there were lots of Indian origin kingdoms thousands of years in the past in the Central Asian region. And they eventually went their own way and developed their own customs and rituals and language and whatnot. And the Scythians were these people. The Scythians, they were nomadic people who ruled this entire vast steppe, the Central Asian region, and they were polytheistic people who worshipped the sun and other gods, and they spoke what is today classified as an Iranian language. I would say Indo-Iranian or whatever. And they re-invaded India and reconquered India about 2000 or so years ago, and they very harmoniously assimilated with the Indian population. Today, nobody knows who's a descendant of Scythians because, well, they were genetically very similar to Indians and culturally and linguistically also very similar to Indians. So there was a very harmonious assimilation of the Scythians with the Indians about 2000 years ago, and the various Scythian dynasties ruled India for until about 1500 years ago, including the northern satraps and the western Mahakshatrapas and so on. So that is the Scythians. And if you look at the Caucasus region today, well, people there also have Scythian ancestry. There are lots of people all across Central Asia and Eastern Europe, etc., who have Scythian ancestry. This region, the European part of Turkey, was historically called Thrace, and Thrace and all this Bulgaria, Romania, etc. That was also regions ruled by Scythians. Even Ukraine, the much of Ukraine, all the way up to present day Xinjiang, where you had the Kushans, who were also, you could say, the easternmost Scythians. So that is about the Scythians. The Kushans were, like I said, you can consider them to be the easternmost Scythians. They are probably closely related to the Tarim river basin people, the Tarim river mummy people, who look European in nature, but if you look at their culture, it was very Indian. And if you look at the genetics, it is R1A1A among the Tarim river mummies. So even though they look kind of European with blonde hair and red hair and all that, genetically they were, yeah, interesting. And the Kushans were probably closely related to the Tarim river basin people. And the Kushans also ruled India for a few centuries, and they also assimilated very harmoniously with the Indian population, which means that they were culturally, genetically quite alike, quite very much like the Indians. And Kanishka was one of our greatest emperors who did more for spreading Indian culture worldwide than almost anybody else. So that is the Kushans. And the Huns were these tribal nomadic people who emerged out of the region of present day Mongolia, more or less. And then they defeated the Scythians at various points in time, and they ruled over Central Asia sometime in the past 1700 years. And they were the Huns eventually were the ancestors of the Turks as well as the Mongols. Even today, the Mongolian word for human being is hu, which kind of comes from I think it's Hunnu, and so on. And the Turkic invasions started in this region with the Hunnic invasions, and the Huns were trying to invade India at the same time when they were trying to invade Rome as well. So they can see how far apart they were, how far widely they were spread out. The Huns, very powerful nomadic confederations, raiders and tribes people, and they tried to invade India during the Gupta era, and our emperor Skandagupta repelled wave after wave after wave of Hunnic invasion, which depleted his treasury and his financial resources. Eventually, the Gupta Empire declined, and the Huns were able to conquer parts of India, and the Huns also assimilated very harmoniously with the Indian population. So there you have it: Shakas, Kushans, as well as Huns, and the Turkic people were the descendants of the Huns, and they eventually adopted a foreign religion, the religion of the Arabs, Islam.